Hey guys, what's going on? It is LC Muscles here. Back in with my last NBA video I think I'm going to do on this channel more than likely because NBA has passed the past few years, especially with this year in general, has been getting the quality, has been declining. Just all the political stuff and all this the play of the game is just, it's unfortunately not the best right now. So as much as I love my 76ers this year and I'll still be a fan of them, I just really won't cover the NBA much on my channel anymore. I'd rather just cover hockey, rather cover baseball. Like topics are a little bit better. But yeah, the NBA though, pretty much I predicted a lot of these playoffs that would happen, and most of the teams that are here, I predicted they would be here. The only team I got wrong realistically in the beginning was Oklahoma City. I didn't think they would be this good. But surprising with Chris Paul and Steven Adams, it's actually a pretty interesting scenario. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my thoughts on each series, who's going to win and who's going to win the NBA Finals. So with that being said, I'm going to start off in the Eastern Conference here. Milwaukee Bucks versus the Orlando Magic. I have the Milwaukee Bucks moving on. Hold on 1 second here. I don't know why that did that, but okay, I don't know why it does that, but I don't know why it doesn't like an interactive map. I thought it would be more interactive, but I guess not, but whatever. I got Milwaukee Bucks going on and moving into the next round. I would say in 5 games for the Magic. The Magic, unfortunately, just don't have the firepower they should have on this team, so it's still not working. I don't know why it does that, but Milwaukee, I think, will win in 5 games. Miami Heat and Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers are technically the home team, but Miami Heat, though, I think will be favored overall. Though I just like the Miami Heat, though. I think they could definitely make some noise, though. And I think the Miami Heat will definitely win this series, I say, in 6 games over the Indiana Pacers. I think the Pacers are the weakest, one of the weaker teams in this Eastern Conference. Like the weakest out of the top 4, the Indiana is definitely the weakest because Miami and Indiana literally is interchangeable. Then you have Boston and Philadelphia, the 76ers. The Sixers I really thought would make much more of a series, though, but the Sixers have had too many injuries. Ben Simmons is out for the remainder of the playoffs. Joel Embiid's hurt, and I just don't like the Sixers odds, unfortunately, as much as I really hate to say it. I think the Boston Celtics will win in 7 games, though. I have Toronto, and then I have Toronto and Brooklyn. I have Toronto moving on. I think this will probably be the game. I think this series will probably be a sweep. So I have Toronto in 4 games. And the Eastern Conference, I have Milwaukee and Miami. I have the Milwaukee Bucks moving on past the Miami Heat in, I'm going to say, 7 games. I think this will be the toughest contest for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the Bucks are definitely going to – Miami Heat will definitely play them really strongly. And the Bucks, though, they do have some great offensive talent. The problem is, though, Miami could definitely match that. But I think the series will go to 7 and Milwaukee will win. Then I have Toronto and Boston in the second series semifinal. I think that the Toronto Raptors this time are going to win. I just don't see them. Unfortunately, I just don't think that they're going to let up on the Celtics. The Celtics, though, I think are kind of overrated, to be honest, but they're a decent team. I just don't think they're as good as Toronto overall. So I have Toronto moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals. And in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's the conference finals as last year, Milwaukee and Toronto. And this time, however, I have Milwaukee Bucks winning in 6 games. I think that they'll be much more ready this time for the Toronto Raptors. So I will say Milwaukee is the Eastern Conference representative to go to the finals. Then in the Western Conference, I moved to the Western Conference. I have the LA Lakers versus the Portland Trailblazers, who won their play-in game today over the Memphis Grizzlies. That's why I pushed the video back. I didn't know there was going to be a play-in, but yeah, there's a play-in Milwaukee, LA, and now the Portland Trailblazers. I think this will be a much more competitive series than if it was Memphis and LA, the Lakers. If it was Memphis and the Lakers, I would say Memphis, LA would win in a sweep. But I have this series going to at least 6 games. I have the Los Angeles Lakers, though, still coming out on top. I don't think the Portland Trailblazers can rely just on Damian Lillard alone. Then you have the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City Thunder being a complete surprise, even with Chris Paul and Steven Adams absolutely tearing it up for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the Rockets kind of really just dropped the ball once again. For some reason, this is always a team when it comes to the late part of the season, they always drop the ball and they don't really do much when it comes to the playoffs. I still think they'll win, but this will be a 7-game series, and I have the Houston Rockets winning in seven games. Then you have Denver and Utah Jazz. This has upset potential written all over it. The Denver Nuggets, I think, are the weakest of the 3 teams. I think the Rockets could beat the Nuggets, honestly. But I think this will be in 7 games, but I actually have an upset here. I'm actually going to go with the Utah Jazz in 7 games over the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets do have Nikola Jokic, but the problem is, though, the Denver Nuggets do have a good defense, but I think Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz just have a much more balanced attack, and I think they can expose Denver's weaknesses. I have the Utah Jazz winning in 7 games, and then I have the Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. This is another really good series of the Western Conference because you have Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic for the Mavericks, and you have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and the Clippers. This is definitely going to be a really tough series, but I just think the Clippers will win a hard-fought series in 7 games. So, yeah, that sets up my semifinal matchups, the LA Clippers and the Utah Jazz, and the Lakers and the Rockets. Lakers and Rockets is going to be a complete sweep. Unlike the Trailblazers, I just think the Lakers match up really well with the Rockets. I have the Lakers moving on past the Rockets to the conference finals, and then the other semifinal, it's going to be the Utah Jazz versus the Clippers. I think that the Clippers are going to be too much for the Jazz this time around. I have the Clippers winning in 5 games. And that's up to the conference final of the the LA Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. I have the Clippers moving on. Actually, no, what was I going to say? I have the Clippers making this a really strong series. And Kawhi Leonard in the postseason is always on fire. But for some reason, especially with things, I think that this is the time the Lakers will win. I think the Lakers will barely beat the Clippers, and I know this series has been very close. I think the Lakers only won 1 game while the Clippers won 2, and their games were all close. But I think for some reason, I think the Lakers are going to win this game, and it will set up the final as the Milwaukee Bucks and the Los Angeles Lakers. No surprise there whatsoever. But this time, though, I realistically think the Lakers are going to win past the Bucks. I think LeBron just has much more experience compared to Giannis, and Giannis, unfortunately, doesn't have the team like the Lakers do, and he can't carry the team like LeBron knows how he can have Anthony Davis and everyone else back him up. Unfortunately, the Bucks really don't have that other guy that they can really rely on. I think the Los Angeles Lakers win in 6 games and become the NBA champion. So, yeah, guys, that's just a little bit of a quick prediction here. Didn't want to make it too long, but I have my finals, the LA Lakers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. I have the Lakers over the Bucks in 6 games. Originally, I did have, in the beginning of the season, I had Lakers-Sixers, but I still have the Lakers winning. My prediction is not going to change there because the Sixers, unfortunately, I think they really need to fire their coach and they need to get everyone healthy because Ben Simmons has been very injury-prone along with Joel Embiid. So, yeah, guys, that's going to about do it. So, with that being said, see you guys later. Stay awesome. Have a good one. And I'll see you guys for my next video, which will be another